Hello, everyone, and welcome to this yet to be named podcast. I'm Will Beverina, and I run Dimer2K.com and write about the NBA 2K League.
I'm Josiah Cohen, whom you might know on the Twitter sphere as AJ113OS, and I write about the NBA 2K League and other things for TSN.ca and occasionally for Operation Sports.
Just to be clear, this is a joint venture between Josiah and myself. We've worked together on a few things before, and we love talking about the NBA 2K League so much that we decided, why not start a podcast?
Why not?
So we're going to be talking about the league every week, both talking about hot topics and having broader discussions regarding the NBA 2K League and throwing in some extras at the end maybe. I want to note that this is a new thing for both of us. I've only ever been on one podcast, and I know Josiah has been on a few more than me.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of experience, but that hardly makes me an elegant orator. So expect lots of ums and lots of hesitation.
Right. So we don't have like any fancy intro music or anything like that. And we're no geniuses at audio editing. So just bear with us, and hopefully it gets better every week. But while I do say that, we actually tried to record an episode a couple weeks ago, but ran into some audio issues. So maybe you'll hear us saying something like, we talked about this before, or something like that. And that's what we mean by that. So we already have a lost episode. And as of this moment, the podcast isn't even a thing yet. So it's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll be like an Easter egg. They'll have to hunt for it. Maybe we'll release it in the dead of night and a long way down the road. But for now, I guess this is number one.
Yeah. So, but we don't want to bore you too much. So why don't we jump into some actual discussion, and let's talk about week 5 of the NBA 2K League. So this was a pretty interesting week, I'd say. There were a lot of things going on. There were a lot of really big matchups between playoff teams. Obviously, there was Blazer5 against the 76ers. But something that jumped out to me personally was the bottom tier of the NBA 2K League. And I personally define the bottom tier of the league as like the teams in 17th through like 13th in the standings.
Hmm.
And all of those teams played against some teams that were like kind of in the middle of the league. So it seemed like a good time as any for those teams to pick up some wins, and all of them won, which was pretty impressive, to be honest. The Grizz Gaming beat Warriors Gaming, Raptors Uprising beat Kingsguard, Pacers Gaming beat Knicks Gaming, and Bucks Gaming beat Magic Gaming. So why don't we start with the Grizz versus the Warriors? Grizz wins 70-68. Back and forth game. Some lineup changes for both teams. Authentic African moving to point guard for the Grizz. And the Grizz went up big early. Warriors came back. Warriors had a lead late. Grizz come back and get a last second shot by D Double to win it. Josiah, tell me your thoughts on Grizz Gaming and Warriors Gaming.
Well, Grizz Gaming were just flat out better this week. D Double continued his strong play from the turn, where they were on the wrong side of a serious defeat at the hands of a much better team in 76ers GC. But you gotta love Authentic at point guard, just putting him in the right place, getting other guys into roles that they might be more comfortable with, taking the ball and some of the pressure out of Threat's hands. Winner stays on, hit a huge shot late as well. That's stepping up for sure. D Double was great, and they pulled it together. Warriors Gaming isn't the greatest team. Their new coach, who came over, as it were, from the Warriors G League team, he's made a big impact. But Grizz Gaming have to find a way to get some wins, and no matter who they're going up against, they've got to be in every game now because the playoffs. It's crazy to say, but the playoffs are slipping away, and Grizz Gaming really may have turned their season around, getting players into roles they're more comfortable with. And Warriors Gaming Squad, maybe go back to the drawing board, work in, two teams that have struggled with integrating their first round picks. Winner stays on for Grizz Gaming and Sean Wynn for Warriors Gaming Squad. So the more teams can do that, I think the better they will be. And Grizz Gaming showed it here.
So, Josiah, you're Canadian. Are you aware of who John Gruden is?
John Gruden, the football coach.
Yes, John Gruden. And John Gruden, you know what he loves? He loves football players. And he says it all the time when he was in the commentary booth. That guy is a football player. Well, Authentic African, he is an NBA 2K player. Okay, this guy has now moved to point guard. He was at center during the tip-off, dominated there.
Dominated, yeah.
Moved to small forward to start the regular season, dominated there. Now he's at point guard, and while he didn't have quite the prolific scoring that he had when he was at small forward and center, I think he's one of the he's got to be top 5 in scoring maybe, but I mean the guy always has like a 20 plus point performance. He didn't quite have that at point guard, but he looked extremely comfortable running that offense.
Absolutely.
And it kind of did two things. One, you get your best player running the offense. And I also think threat wasn't quite working out for the Grizz at point guard, both on offense and defense. He had kind of some duds offensively, and more than a few times I saw him looking a bit lost, trying to keep up with some of the other point guards in the league. So they moved him, put him on a shooter, put D double in the game. And I mean, you got to hand it to them. The Warriors were up like by 10 points with less than 4 minutes to go. And the Grizz battled back. And obviously, back and forth game, they get the almost buzzer beater from D double and they win. So I was extremely impressed with this win just for the fact that they had a huge lead early and they gave it up. And, a lot of teams would kind of fold at that point, but they kept fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they scored 21 in the first quarter, but still pulled it out in almost the comeback fashion late. And yeah, when Threat shoots over 50%, Grizz Gaming are a winning team historically. That won't necessarily continue throughout the season, but he went 4 for 5 in this game, and Authentic. As you said, so versatile. He did an excellent job limiting turnovers. Just 2, which is very, very good for a point guard. And he did wind up with a 14 point, 14 assist double double. I'm not going to say that they're going to make a sudden run to the playoffs because of it, but that is a recipe for success. And you want to go back to the same recipe that for success. And some of the best teams in the league are able to do that. Some of the worst teams are not, and they may well have found theirs.
Yeah, we actually talked about maybe moving Winner stays on back to point guard, but I think staying with Authentic African at point guard definitely is the move.
And you know why he's successful?
Why is that?
He's Canadian.
I'll just go ahead and give that to you.
We can get into that. Yeah, you know what? Frankly, he's been the best Canadian. I do every week when I write my article for TSN. I have a little one of my sections is the Canada Watch. There are 5 Canadians in the league, and Authentic is consistently number 1, and he proved that again.
Yeah, got to give it to him. So moving on, Raptors Uprising beat Kingsguard 66-54, and the Raptors, they dominated this one from the start. Kingsguard had a bit of a comeback in the fourth quarter, but by the time that they got into any sort of rhythm, it was way too late. What are your thoughts on Raptors beating the Kings?
Just such a good win for them. Held the Kings to 6 points in the third quarter. But what was remarkable and what especially stood out for me is that all hell Trey made a start at power forward, which he hasn't really done this year, but he still put up 25 points against a front court duo in Kingsguard that is talented and obviously much more highly regarded than all hell Trey was coming into the game. King Kwai came off the bench, put up a double-double himself. And one other thing that stood out to me, besides for the Toxies not doing much offensively, which he'll need to do against better teams, but Kenny has been phenomenal in limiting his turnovers. He was leading the league in turnovers going into the turn. but he's really cut down on them. He's started posting higher assist numbers, and he only had 3 turnovers in this game, which I think is a step forward, and a step forward that needed to happen. They needed a point guard really running the show, and that combined with this newfound versatility from All Hell Trey is really a good way going forward. And I'm going to harp on this, I think, throughout the podcast, but the Raptors had the toughest schedule in the league in the first quarter, first third of the season. They played the 3 top point guards, the three top overall draft picks in the league. They played 2 doubleheaders. They lost all 4 games in those. They had the toughest group in the tip off. Then they went up again against Blazer5 in the turn, and they're a better team than their record indicates. And I think if they can pull off the 4-0 run in these 4 weeks between the turn and ticket, then they're just a really dangerous team to watch out for.
Yeah, so you talked a lot about the Raptors there. I guess I'll talk about the Kings. The big thing to me here was they switched their front court configuration. What they had been running lately was Moody at center with the pure rim protector and putting Worthing Colt on the rebounding athletic finisher power forward. And they switched that up this game, put Moody back on the sharpshooting rim protector, and then Colt was at center. And I'm really trying to like rack my brain trying to think of a reason they did that, because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. That sharpshooting rim protector builds, I don't think has been all that great from everything we've seen so far in the league. And I know Moody is a good spot up shooter, and that's kind of how he made his name a bit. But the what they were doing before with Colt at power forward and Moody at center was working just so much better, I think. And you look at what they did against the Raptors, they combined for 20 points, which is not what you want from your first and second round picks. So I think they need to go back to Moody at center and Worthing Colt on the power forward. And what they were kind of doing mostly was just feeding Colt in the post and just let him go to work on that rebounding athletic finisher, because it's a good build.
Right.
They need to go back to that. And that's the most important thing to me. There are some other things they can do with their lineup, but as long as they do that, they're gonna have a lot more success than getting. I mean, it took a 23-point fourth quarter for them to not get blown out by a team that was previously 1-5. So they have a couple things to figure out, I think.
Right, and I think they're still in that figuring out phase. They got a new head coach, former D1 and European point guard, and I think we saw how much getting a coach helped for Warriors Gaming Squad, but there was less hype about Warriors Gaming Squad coming in, and they have less external pressure, and we just haven't seen Kingsguard really respond to all that hype that myself, certainly included, gave them before the season.
Right. So moving on, Pacers beat the Knicks 67-63. Another close game. Pacers, more lineup changes, and they actually came back in the fourth quarter against the Knicks and won. What were your thoughts on that game?
I liked them, having Wolf run the offense. I thought that was the big difference for them. Although, of course, Tucker exploded for 33 points. Wolf getting the 14 assists, really moving into that ultra important point guard role, was really crucial for them. I mean, the Knicks, you don't want to lose to a team that hasn't won a game in the regular season. They, I could see them changing things up for the next game after only scoring 9 points in the fourth quarter here. But credit to the Pacers. This league, as we've seen, has been it's any given Sunday, to continue the football metaphor almost. Any given Saturday, really. Teams can win at any time, and they found something that worked this game. They just got a sixth man as well who might invigorate things. I mean, they can't possibly trend down. So kudos to them for trending up.
Yeah, we talked about the Pacers before, and we were kind of wondering, like, where do they go from here? And putting Wolf at point guard, like, I kind of threw that out there, but I didn't really think they would actually do it. But they did do it, and I mean, he didn't shoot all that well, but 14 assists, that's, about what you should ask from your point guard. Tucker locks up, moving from the pure rim protector onto power forward and scoring 33 points. I mean,
Ah,
I didn't see that one coming, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
he just had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this box score now, and I'm just realizing this. The Knicks did not hit a single three-pointer this game. If this box score is correct on the league website, Nate Cal 0 for 4, Adam the First 0 for 1, Idris 0 for 1, Yay Not Gaming 0 for 1. So that they've had some three-point shooting problems before. I thought they kind of alleviated them by now, but I mean that's shocking to say the least. Adam the First only having 5 points, and both Idris and Goofy only shot 50% from the field, which in this league, when you're two big men, you got to be doing better than that.
Yeah, the team as a whole, shot under 50%, which, as you say, is certainly unacceptable and untenable in a league that's really predicated on efficiency, especially for those two guys down low.
Yeah, you talked about them losing to another team that was previously winless. They also lost. They also gave Magic Gaming their first win of the regular season. This is probably, I would say, the most inconsistent team in the league. Talking about Knicks Gaming.
Yeah, I don't know. I might still plump for Celtics, though. I think they were always a better team than their seed indicated, and hindsight is 2020, obviously. But Fab, if the Celtics have been the least consistent team, then Fab has arguably been the most consistent offensive player.
Yep, that's a good suggestion, actually. All right, last game of these bottom tier teams. Bucks Gaming beat the Magic Gaming. Bucks had more lineup changes. They moved Game 6 Drake, their first round pick, back to point guard. He had been on a pure sharpshooter before. They lost to Celtics Gaming earlier in the day, took a big loss to Celtics Gaming, and bounced back with a win over the Magic. What did you think of this one?
I liked the Bucks' performance in this one. Especially going up against Magic Gaming, who although they came in off a loss, they were in general on a hot streak. The Bucks shut down King Cam Royalty, who'd been absolutely phenomenal throughout. I'll talk more about the Magic in this one, and you can take the Bucks as it were. But one thing I've been saying is that control needs to do a little more controlling on offense. He really ceded a lot of the scoring load to his big men in their 4 game win streak, which is understandable as it works. But I think if you're not getting the ball to King Cam Royalty, then in a sense the offense has to go through you. This is just such a league that's dominated by point guards and big men. It's almost the inverse of the NBA, which is so wing heavy. But Control only put up 12 points. He did shoot 2 for 2 from 3, but 12 points and 6 assists at point guard is not the way to truly marshal your troops. I know they've been running the offense through the big men, but at some point in the game, you have to step up as a as an individual, as the team's first round pick, and take things into your own hands, as I think Game 6 Drake in a sense did.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Game 6 Drake, we said he was put on a pure sharpshooter at shooting guard, taken off of point guard, which, I mean, was a big surprise to me, honestly. That's your first round pick, and like that's your guy, like and to move, especially to move STL to LA onto point guard, who for the most part has struggled throughout this entire season. I mean, I don't know, man. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. And this is a team with so little consistency when it comes to their lineup. I'm pretty sure they've trotted out like 5 or 6 or 7 different lineups throughout the season. And I'm not too much of a fan of that, but maybe they found something here. I'm not entirely convinced. I don't even necessarily think that the Bucks outplayed the Magic. I think it mostly came down to late game execution, which is why the Bucks won. But I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, the Magic shot pretty decently. It's not no one really had like an awful performance. I mean, King Cam only had 9 points, but he was 4 of 6 for shooting. So I don't know, man. I have a real hard time like pegging down this Bucks team and like trying to predict what they're gonna do from week to week. So this was a good win for them though. It's their second win of the season. They really needed it. If they had lost this one, I would have almost been ready to, say that they have no playoff hopes at all.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree in that I've been sort of down on the Magic throughout their winning streak since in it they did play the teams that wound up being the 12th, 13th, and 15th seeds in the turn. But what do you think? What do you think? Is Precision ever going to see the floor again for Bucks Gaming?
I mean, I don't know. And that was, I mean, when he was benched, I was really surprised because he put up some good combine numbers and he seemed to be one of the better shooters on the team. So to bench him in favor of Big Meek, of course, has been playing great. But I mean, who knows, man? Who knows? With like I said, with this Bucks team, you just never know what they're gonna do week in and week out.
It's definitely a tough one.
All right, so moving away from the bottom of the league, we had a couple of real good matchups on paper here. Let's talk about Jazz Gaming versus Wizards District. Jazz Gaming without Mr. Slaughter, their star center. It's their second round pick. He was out with dealing with personal issues, and the Jazz still won. They won 70-59 over a team that a Wizards team that I was I'm still pretty high on. So, what did you think of this game?
Yeah, I thought it was a great game, especially from Tiffy. Did a great job holding Boo Painter. JT had a great game. But one thing that always stands out to me about the Wizards, whom I agree with you in that I'm high on them, and I think they're a good team, probably better than their overall record shows. But I think for them it seems that every game their offense runs through someone, and it's usually been Boo. Sometimes it's been Jin. Here it was JT, but I think their secondary scoring is so important to the success of their team. Riz the God averages about 8 more points in wins than he does in losses, and he only put up 3 points here on one 3-pointer made out of 4 attempts. And the more secondary scoring they can get when other teams hold their top guys down, as Jazz Gaming did in this one, I think they are a very, very dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Tiffy, who moved to power forward and dropped 27 points on 12 for 8 shooting. I mean, that was the surprise to me. I will correct one tiny thing you said, saying that he covered Boo Painter. He was actually on Jin this entire game. And what I noticed was that, I mean, Tiffy World, he has a reputation for being an on-ball defender, and he's the best on-ball defender on this Jazz Gaming team. So what they did actually was they put Tiffy on Jin, and Jin was just kind of ineffective from the start, right? Like he did not have a good game at all, and they like completely got away from Jin, and like you said, started running the offense through JT and Boo. So what pretty much what was happening was Jim was sitting in the corner, and because he's on the shot creating slasher, and it just is no threat from range, it allowed Tiffy to play some really heavy help defense whenever Boo or JT was driving to the rim. So I think that was the biggest thing about this was just the defensive setup for Jazz Gaming. We know they're a really good defensive team, and they held the Wizards, who are a really good offense, to only 59 points. So that was the big thing, and we've talked about this before with I Compete and wanting him to take over a little bit more in regards to scoring. We always know Compete's going to get like 13, 14 assists a game, but he's been, I don't know the correct word, but he only has a few like 20 plus point performances. And I've always really wanted to see him try to take over the scoring more. Well, he had 21 points this game. And even just looking at this box score again, the Jazz only went 2 for 6 from three as a team, but they just got it done driving to the paint.
Yeah, and Deeds, again, if this box score is accurate, which is an if to be considered, but we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Deeds, had the same number of rebounds as the entire Wizards District Gaming team had with 17, and they added 9 rebounds besides for Deeds, making that spot start at center. And how important has rebounding been overall in a league that's been reliant on the point guard making the point guard or primary ball handler thinking back to Hood in the tip off, in a league heavy on point guards and big men. How important has rebounding uh, on the whole been?
I mean, it's been huge. You look at, the teams at the top of the league. Mr. Slaughter is one of the best rebounders in the league, maybe the best rebounder in the league. Jazz are a great team. You look at the duo of Walnut and Shots, great rebounding team, great rebounding duo. You look at the Pistons, who are almost entirely built on defense and rebounding, and
Mhm,
they're 4-1 right now. So
mhm.
rebounding has a pretty strong correlation with being a good team.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it correlation? Is it causation? I would say that it is. I think it's so tough to look back at the beginning of the season and say, oh, we knew these teams were going to be this good. We knew this team was going to be bad. We knew this player was going to break out. It's very tough to call. One thing everyone was saying was, how's Dimes going to do? And I'm just transitioning to that one since I found that game really interesting this week. Another good game on the whole with them taking on Cavs Legion, who were on the second half of a doubleheader. Dimes, he had the standard double double, 22 points, 12 assists. They racked up the 8 turnovers, which was a rough one. I mean, to finish that thought, I suppose, has Dimes been worthy of that number one overall pick? I'll leave that out there, and I'll throw even another question at you. Hazza with another double double. Is he the right move for them? Because they've been so terrific with excepting this week. They've been so terrific with Day Fry down low. Is Hazza still the right move for them at power
With
forward?
with regards to Dimes, I there are so many good players in this league, and obviously hindsight is 2020. I almost feel like it's too early to make the call on who should have been the true first round pick. If you're looking at it purely from an on the court perspective, I mean it wasn't a bad pick by any means. I don't think anyone's arguing that. Maybe I mean I'm sure a lot of people would make a lot of arguments for a lot of different players. But he's averaging 20 and 12 with 2.5 steals a game. And if you look at the way the Mavs play, I think his playmaking tendencies help them out a lot. They rely so much on getting the ball down to Day Fry or Haza. And they also rely a lot on getting their shooters open in DeVillen and ball like Seam. So him being able to find those shooters and him being able to feed the post is so important. And then obviously just him as a scoring threat on offense is part of why his playmaking is so deadly, because you got to worry about what he's doing. And obviously we know he can string together some dribble moves. So they're not complaining about that pick at all. But like I said, I think it's a little too early to I guess speculate whether he was worth it at number one. As for Haza, I mean, I'll be honest, I almost have no clue. Like he's played well, right? But JLB was your third round pick. Maybe I don't know. Dayfry was obviously one of the best centers in the league at center, so it was a little weird that they moved him to power forward. But I think with the league with teams moving to two big men down low instead of having a stretch four. I think maybe that works better with the personnel. Maybe Hazza is just a better fit. Hazza and Dayfry are just a better front court for trying to do that than JLB, who's been a shooter the entire time in the league.
Yeah, definitely a copycat league. I'm glad you brought up ball like Seam, and I very much agree that his emergence, because he's been phenomenal in my opinion. has probably more to do with Dimes than with him just exploding onto the scene. And that's not to take away from the terrific work he's done at all. But I think, as you say, Dimes being there certainly helps out and makes that possible in a way that wouldn't necessarily have been with a perhaps more scoring oriented point guard.
Yeah. Let's talk about, the game of the week, Blazer5 versus 76ers Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
This was a good one. This was a good one. Both teams, I mean, from what I was seeing, it was both teams kind of got taken out of what they like to do. But I think it's clear to me after watching this game that Blazer5 really is the best team in the league. What did you see?
Yeah, I couldn't have said that much better myself. That really proved himself in the third game against Radiant and 76ers GC. I mean, they held a really talented offensive team to 69 points overall, 9 in the fourth, and you know, all you got to do is take one look at Walnut's stats from this game, 31 and 15, and I think that seals the deal right there. But what this game got me excited for is seeing who potentially is the one to step up and really challenge Blazer 5, because although 76ers GC didn't get a chance to go up against them in the final of the turn, Celtics crossover got the chance. I think 76ers still felt they were the real team to test Blazer 5's mettle. And I think now that Blazer 5 is up 2-1 in their season series, I think they've knocked 76ers GC back a bit. I'm very interested to see which team is the next one that's going to really rise up and try and knock Blazer 5 down from their high and well-deserved perch.
Yeah, there are a couple contenders for that. I don't think the Mavs have played Blazer 5 yet. I don't think the Jazz have played Blazer 5 yet. I don't think the Pistons have played Blazer 5 yet.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, in 2 weeks' time, Celtics getting the rematch in the nightcap of the Friday game. On the side on that, I like that the league has gone to 4 games Friday night. I'm a fan of that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I like it a lot. I gotta
Yeah,
say, I like it a
yeah.
lot.
There's a lot to like there, and maybe it makes it easier at the very least on the great commentary team for the long Saturday day. That's going to be long anyways, but the more you can shorten it a bit, get a standard break, get standard package of games in, I think the better for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Going back to Blazer 5 versus 76ers, though, it it was a weird first half to me. Like both teams have such a clear game plan going in. The 76ers, they want to hit their threes and they want Radiant to drive and make a decision to either kick it out or take it to the rim himself. And the Blazer 5 obviously wants to paint mash. And neither of those teams did those things in the first half
Mm.
because the 76ers weren't really shooting threes, but they were kind of outplaying Blazer 5 in the paint, which was, I'm racking my head. That never happens ever,
Nope.
with Walnut and shots down there. And 76ers were getting out in transition a lot. But in the second half, everything kind of got back to normal where Blazer 5 got back to the paint mashing and was outplaying the 76ers. Shots had a real quiet first half, came alive a bit in the second half. Walnut, like you said, 31 points, 15 rebounds, and Mama, I'm that man, 21 points and 15 assists. So it was a close game, but like I said, I think it became clear by the end that Blazer 5 was the better team. Like you said, I think they held the 76ers to 9 points in the fourth quarter. And we'll just have to wait and see until Blazer 5 play some of the other teams near the top and see if some other teams can challenge them.
Yeah, I think Mama is the only guy who can really challenge Fab for the assist crown. As long as he plays, particularly against the 76ers. 15 is his fewest assists against the 76ers, if I recall correctly, or maybe tied for. He had a 17 assist game against them early on. And, lavish hit three threes, and so it begs the greater overall question. Is paint mashing the way to go over shooting threes?
I mean, at this point, it seems like it. Like I alluded to earlier, so many more teams are going to that, you know, two big man attack that Blazer5 has been doing since the beginning. But you saw a lot of teams early trying the sharpshooting rim protector at power forward, and it's not the greatest shooting build ever, and it doesn't do much on defense. So you've seen the Knicks go back to having two big men in the paint. You've seen Heat Check doing that. The Magic are doing that, and I mean probably more teams than I can just think of off the top of my head. So yeah, it's definitely going toward that. Put two guys down low and just let them go to work.
Yeah, the Heat have done well, and I think they're another team that's going to be sneaky good. Especially if their point guard should be Majestic, or should anyone else take over the role, the more he can assert himself, I think they are going to be a really good team. I've always been a big fan of Hot Shot, and if they can get that commanding dual threat besides for Hot Shot in the paint, who's all still one of the better passing big men in the league, I think they're just going to take that next step on offense and have a great little dual threat.
All right, well, that's week 5. Let me ask you a question, Josiah. A couple questions actually. Who were you most impressed with this week? Or last week, I guess. Who were you most impressed with in week 5? Who do you think had the most impressive performance team wise?
Yeah, I'll skip the easy answer, which I think in my mind is Grizz Gaming. Getting a big win with some adversity after blowing that big early lead. That would be the first one that comes to my head. But what I'll say is I'm gonna go with the Cavs, and they finished 1-1 on the week. They lost to Pistons in the first game of their doubleheader, only scored 50 points, but then they beat the Mavs and got a huge last second block after a clear path foul put them at a disadvantage. But some teams, cough Raptors cough, have struggled with the doubleheader, and I think it's good on them, to win game 2 of a doubleheader, especially after losing game 1, especially against a very good team in Mavs Gaming. And the Bucks did a similar thing. Magic Gaming is a less prestigious victory in Game 2 than Mavs Gaming, but Bucks Gaming really got hammered in their first one of the day. But yeah, I'm going with the Cavs in this one. Playing without Hood, which got everyone so excited during the tip off. They came out in Game 2 of their day, and they got a big win that really helps them out in terms of the playoff picture.
Yeah, that's a good pick, actually. The Cavs. I'm going to go
Mm,
with the Jazz. I mean, not having your center, a guy who's kind of like
yeah.
the engine of your offense with both his shooting and his rebounding, and beating another good team by double digits is pretty impressive. So I was most impressed with them. I kind of when I saw Slaughter was out, I kind of almost just assumed that the
Mm.
Wizards would win. But Jazz Gaming showed us something with that win.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great pick as well. Can't argue with that. And are we doing least impressed
Yeah,
with?
who were you most disappointed with in week 5?
Um, I don't know. A few off the top of my head. Well, I mean, one of the easy ones should be Knicks Gaming. Losing to that winless team in the regular season, not shooting so well. Maybe Heat Check. You know, Obviously the most difficult matchup in going up against Blazer 5, but I was certainly hoping they could you know post more of an effort than losing by 23. I think they're a better team than that, but maybe Kingsguard in this one, only scoring 54, not hitting their shots so well, not getting sufficient production really across the court. Timely had a good game. That was about it. And losing to a team that was 1-5, playing some people at new positions, only got 2 points from the Toxies. And I made the inverse case for Raptors earlier in the podcast as to why they were an underrated team going in. But every team, I think, should be going into games feeling like they can win this. And I know Kingsguard certainly has the confidence there that they can do that, and I think they let themselves down in this one. As you said earlier, needing that big fourth quarter output to even make the game a close one.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but Kingsguard would be my pick. Losing by 12 to a team that only had one win before is, I mean, it's not even just that. It's that they folded, honestly. You could see it. They had the new reaction cams in the corners this week.
Love those.
Yeah,
Love those.
great addition.
Yeah.
Great addition. Good work to the production team on that. But you could see it the entire game, just how frustrated they were. Like they just looked mentally out of it. They checked out, and this team is just capable of better, and that's why I was so disappointed in them this week.
Absolutely. The body language is a tough one. Still adjusting, I think, to being so visible. So many teams we see are very dependent on having that energy and that communication, and Kingsguard obviously epitomizes that.
All right, let's look ahead to week 6. There are some interesting matchups here. There are actually 3 matchups between teams in the top 8. We have Pistons taking on the Mavs. We have Celtics Gaming taking on Jazz Gaming. And we have 76ers Gaming taking on Magic Gaming, which is going to be the first game of the week on Friday. So looking at week 6, you don't necessarily have to pick one of those, but what's a matchup that you're really looking forward to?
I think in terms of a personnel matchup, the one that stands out is the Compete Fab matchup, game number 2 on Friday between Jazz Gaming and Celtics crossover. But at the same time, another one that I'm really liking is the Pistons Mavs matchup. Very very different teams. Even though Day Fry, in general has been a force in the post, very very different teams. I think in terms of mentality that's the one I think that I'm going to go with. Pistons going to be on the front end of a doubleheader, tough test in the Mavs, and then presumably an easier test in Pacers Gaming later that day. But that'll be, I think, a good way to cap off the first round of games on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go outside of all those matchups. And one I really have my eye on is Heat Check versus Knicks Gaming. These are kind of 2 teams that are in the middle. They're kind of downward trending. Like you mentioned earlier, the Heat Check took a 23-point loss to Blazer5. Knicks lost to the Pacers. I'm really interested in see which of these teams bounces back and which is going to try to really make a push for the playoffs. Those teams in the middle, they still have a pretty good chance of making the playoffs, but you got to win the winnable games if you want to make the playoffs. You got to beat the teams at the bottom. You got to beat the teams in the middle. So if whoever gets that jump start this week between the Heat Check and Knicks Gaming is going to have a much easier time trying to make the playoffs. And the Knicks, if they lose, 2-5 is not nearly as good as this team probably is on paper.
Right. I mean, 2-5. That's 7 out of 14 games. That's half the season. 2-5. Definitely not where you want to be. I think it's fairly safe to suggest that a team in the top 8 is going to win the ticket tournament. The winner of which gets an automatic berth in the playoffs. It's not guaranteed, obviously. A team really hunting for that spot could put it all on the line and upset some teams on the way to a playoff spot. But I'm expecting a team in the top 8 to win. So that leaves the 8th seed. Very very important. And right now, there are 4 teams at 3-3. Were Heat checked to beat the Knicks, they'd also be at 3-3, which is a solid play. They've got the doubleheader as well, but would be at 3-3 if they beat the Knicks. And yeah, I agree. These as early in the season as it seems, games are starting to become make or break. And at this point, you got to put aside questions of identity for some teams, questions of roles for other teams, and start to make that beeline, start to give it all in trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said regards to the ticket, which is that 3rd in-season tournament, and the winner gets a playoff spot. It seems very unlikely, given the current trend, that a team out anywhere from 9 to 17 is going to win that one. I mean, it's possible, but you can't rely on that if you're outside of the playoffs right now. So yeah, you gotta start winning those games in the regular season. But Speaking about the playoffs, I'm going to put you on the spot here a bit, ask you a question regarding the playoffs. So, five teams. Five teams at the bottom. Pacers Gaming, 1-4. Warriors Gaming, 1-4. Raptors Uprising, 2-5. And then the Grizz Gaming and Bucks Gaming both at 2-4. If you had to pick one team out of those five, who do you think has the best shot at making the playoffs?
Ooh, that's a tough one. If Ceteris paribus, with all things being equal, if the Raptors still had, played fewer games, I think I'd give it to them in terms of just their capabilities and what they can do. They don't have the easiest schedule going forward. They play the Pistons next week, but I want to say the Raptors. I really do, but the fact that they just don't have enough games remaining against winnable teams or beatable teams rather, and they've got two huge matchups, late in the season against Grizz Gaming in the penultimate week of the season, and then against Heat Check Gaming, and just looking at that final week of the season, that's going to be a great one. Bucks Gaming, Mavs Gaming, which I think could have some more playoff implications than we expect. I'm not sure the Mavs are going to stay comfortably ensconced at the top. And then you've got that Heat Check Raptors Uprising game, which is going to be phenomenal. You've got Magic Cavs, and then you've got, I think, one that could determine a playoff spot in Grizz Gaming, Heat Check Gaming in the 5 p.m. slot. So I'm actually going to go with the Grizz. That's the team I'm going to pick. It's a tough one, and earlier I would have said the Bucks, but they've just struggled. I'm gonna go and give it to Grizz Gaming and say that all right, they've turned it around. They are going to be the team that executes best at the end of the day, at the end of the season. And the Raptors it's only one game, but one game out of 14 is a big one.
I came up with this question and I don't I don't even think I have an answer for it. Like it's such a tough one.
Yeah, well, here, tell you what. Tell me which of the top 6 teams, let's say, Blazer5 through Cavs Legion, lone 4-3 team, which of those is most likely to drop out of the playoffs?
I think it'd be Cavs Legion just because I think there are some question marks about how the team's going to play once Hood gets back.
Yep.
We saw them try Hood at point guard
Didn't
in
work.
the turn, and it didn't really work out all that well. He didn't look really comfortable on that build. So are they gonna let him come back to small forward when he comes back? Are they gonna try to make the point guard thing work? And I mean, how are they gonna play? It's going on 4 or 5 weeks now that he hasn't played in a regular season game. There's gonna be a lot of rust to shake off. So they have the biggest question mark out of all those top 6 teams.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. But I like that. As I said, I really like that they came out and played hard against the Mavs. I'm interested to see how those double headers are going to affect things later on in the season because the Heat Check, they have their own double double to cap it off, as do Pacers Gaming, who could well be in it. But I mean, Pacers Gaming, they have to take on Blazer5 in the very last game of the regular season, and I mean that's probably not the way you want to have to try and earn a playoff spot.
All right. I think that's is there anything on your mind, Josiah, that you would like to discuss?
Anything on my mind? Yeah, let's talk a little bit. Let's jump from the court, do a quick changeover, Staples Center style, from the court to the ice. The NHL just had their Gaming World Championships earlier tonight. The finals won by a fellow from Finland. They had 6 different competitors, 2 from the U.S., 2 from Canada, 2 from Finland from the European qualifying, and they're going to take it to. Could they take it to 6-on-6 next year, which is 6-on-6 really being the heart of NHL experience? I think that would be phenomenal. I would love to see the NHL try that. They don't have as big a following in terms of esports as 2K did when launching. They've always been a little more conservative about those fronts. But I want to say that 6-on-6 to me is a bigger jump and a better one from the rest of the game than 5-on-5 is from the rest of NBA 2K. So I would be excited to see that the championships got at best over 20,000 concurrent viewers, which is the 2K League would take that right about now for most of their games. They've hit that mark before, but that would be nice consistently. And so I'd love to see the NHL give it a shot and follow the mold here.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching as well. It was honestly, I was a little impressed, mostly with the presentation of everything. They had NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman there, who got some booze at the trophy presentation in great
As,
hockey tradition.
yep, and as I was about to say, exactly.
And they actually had Catherine Tappan there, who's on the analyst desk for hockey games on NBC Sports, which was, I mean, I think that was pretty cool. But, there were a lot of production hiccups, especially with the audio. Sometimes just a torrent of sound would just like assault your ears on the broadcast.
Yep,
And
yep.
they got to work on that and, make things a little bit smoother when it comes to the production. But I think the 6v6 thing is definitely what they have to do, because in this one, in this tournament, it was 1v1 and you picked a team and everyone picked the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, that as I wrote earlier has got to change because for not only is it confusing, it's just there's only so many times you want to see Crosby score, especially if you're one of the 30 other fan bases in the NHL, probably you especially. Congratulations, by the way, Mr. Washington Capitals fan. I think I may have said it on the last one in advance, but kudos to you for that nice little piece of silver you guys won.
Yeah, that's partly why we didn't record last week. Was the game 5 was on Thursday, so
Oh, I was watching. I was watching. Believe me.
yeah, I mean, man, that's first ever championship, DC championship I've witnessed out of any of the major sports. I'll be honest with you, man, I shed a lot of tears.
There you go.
It was really, I was watching with my dad, and my dad's been a fan of the Caps for 40 years, and we've been season ticket holders for 20 years now. And
Wow.
my dad and uncle bought those tickets right before their first Stanley Cup run in '98, and they bought it because when they won the cup, they wanted to be there. So this wasn't the year that the Caps were supposed to do it, man. The window was supposed to be closed. In all honesty, I thought the window was closed, because last year's team was just so much more talented. But this year's team, there's just something different, man. And yeah, I mean, I watch the video of Game 5 and the Cup celebration all the time, and I was of course keeping up with Alex Ovechkin going on the greatest bender the world's ever seen.
He went nuts. Absolutely nuts.
And I went to the championship parade last week and
There you go.
got such a bad sunburn. I still haven't recovered, but it's, man, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I I've been, I'm 24 years old, about to be 25, and never seen the Caps or the Nats or the Wizards or Redskins win one. And I was just waiting for it to happen, and finally happened. And I always kind of hoped it would have been the Caps, just because the Stanley Cup is just the hardest trophy to win in all of sports, man. The NHL playoffs are no joke. And
No
I
joke.
knew that if they won, that the run through the playoffs would be beautiful, and the run through the playoffs was beautiful. So,
It was indeed.
very happy guy.
Hey, hey, if Backstrom I think can play through multiple broken bones or multiple ligament tears, whatever it was, I don't remember which of the many gruesome potential injuries he suffered multiple times was. You can work through a little sunburn.
Yeah, yeah. I did it for the Caps, which is why I get my name on the cup. No,
Yeah,
I really don't. But
that'd be nice. Hey, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with the final championship for the NBA 2K League or championship trophy? I mean, that if they got their names on, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd really love to see like just a really cool trophy. I mean, they have like the steel banner thing for all
Yeah,
these tournaments, which looks pretty cool. Like they look just massive.
yeah.
So
Well,
I mean I would hope they have like maybe they'll. I mean, I doubt they do something like Stanley Cup where you get your name on
no,
it. That would be cool.
that'd be cool. Well, final thought, and then I guess we should get out of here. Um, do we get to vote for the MVP? How is this gonna work? I think we should get to vote for the MVP
I
or
completely
All
agree.
Star participants. I think we have earned the right to vote for the most valuable player. You know,
I
and
completely
that's not
agree.
necessarily it's not necessarily being elitist media, but there's some way that we should be able to participate in a league that's so focused on participation. Throw us a bone or two. Shouldn't be that hard, right?
We have thoughts and opinions, and we'd certainly like to contribute to the MVP voting. I mean, who knows how it's going to go? Uh,
Yeah.
they have like the MVP tracker on the website every week. I mean, it's,
I mean that's an opinion.
right,
So
yeah,
that's an opinion.
but I mean, who knows, man? Who
Who
knows?
knows?
If
Yeah.
they throw us a bone, it'd be cool. I'm
Yeah.
uh, I'm not holding my breath though. Let's just say.
No, no, no. I am certainly not holding mine either.
All right, is that everything?
Is that it?
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Uh, talked a lot about week 5. Talked a bit about week 6. Josiah, tell the people where can they find you and where can they find all of your wonderful content.
They can find me on TSN. I'm not sure if they'll find any wonderful content there. They'll find some content there, some of which is pretty good. Especially if you're a Canadian and you're interested. As I said, talk a lot about the Raptors. I got a little Canada watch going, but I also get some funky, crazy statistics in there on occasion. Um, all right, they're not the most perceptive, incisive, sabermetric stats, but I think it's a fun read. I think it's a pretty fun read. You can find me there. You can find me at Operation Sports. Those are the big ones.
He's too humble, folks. Josiah writes some, I would say, profound stuff when it comes to the NBA 2K League, and
Um,
I
the
enjoy reading it.
hyperbole is manifest.
And the stats, he's not lying. They're out there, and I'm thoroughly impressed with that any human being is able to come up with them sometimes.
What did you say when you first saw them? Where the hell did you get these,
That
or something like that?
my mind was just blown. I was like, "What?" It's like something about the 100th game of the league and the amount of assists that Radiant has, and just some sort of weird. It's like the meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where like he's like at the board with a bunch of pins in it, and he's like looking all frazzled and crazy. Like I think that was you coming up with
That
those.
was that is an accurate depiction of me trying to write that final paragraph. Yeah, and for those who you should go read it. So I'll leave some great statistics there, but the idea was that the 100th game in the league was actually this week's Blazer 5 76ers game, and the 200th game in the league is going to be game number 2 of the best of 3 finals, which could well be at this rate Blazer 5 and 76ers. And there's some great stuff about right. All right, great is too much, but there's some stuff about Radiant's combined, I think it's assists and steals, assists and points. So I mean, the numbers work out. The numbers somehow work out.
It's quite a read. It's quite a read.
It can be a fun read. Hey, but you're also a fun read. Where can they find you?
Right. So if you want to follow me on Twitter at Will Beverina, Beverina, I run Dimer2K.com, write a lot about the NBA 2K League there. So go check out the site. I put out a couple articles a week, do some other
There's
things.
great stuff on there. Consistent, incisive in a way that mine in there sometimes their best of times cannot be, and just a great. I would say I would go as far as to say a must read for any serious NBA 2K League consumer.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
There
But
you go.
if you want to follow Dimer on Twitter at Dimer2K, uh,
He makes gifts.
I make GIFs that you can download every single week. I make some graphics from time to time, so it's an okay follow on Twitter. Let me fill your news
Is there
feed.
such thing as a good follow on Twitter?
These days, no,
No,
definitely not.
no. But there are some egregiously bad ones, and yours is certainly not among those.
Well, I appreciate that. Follow
That's
Josiah, follow me, follow all of our stuff. Follow the NBA 2K League if you're listening to this. You probably do already.
indeed. Yeah, that's some pretty good odds. Hey, what? All right, last one. My last thought. We said in the previous recording that we did, that will be lost in the sands of time, that our overall goal. I don't remember how we got onto this. I talked a lot about the Lowe post. I think we said we were going to get Doris Burke on eventually. That was our goal one day, and I'm going to stand by that. I'm going to say we get Doris Burke on, even Zach Lowe. We get one of those two on, then this podcast will have been a success, a success in the highest, utmost degree.
Yeah,
I'm just reiterating that. I like that from last time. So
I mean,
Doris Burke,
I think step one is to get them watching the NBA 2K League. Just
yes. Hey, Zach had that. Geez, I'm calling him Zach. I do not have the right to call him Zach. Zach Lowe. He wrote that article about the courts. He got the first look at the league's courts. So maybe he's seen a game.
he wasn't much of a fan. He
No, he
seemed
won't.
like a really like traditional old school guy. He wasn't a fan of the courts.
That's true. But you know what? We'll send him a game. If we tag him 100 times, then
Right,
he'll
just
be
just
forced to
spam
at
their
least.
mentions.
Yeah, that'll do.
I
That'll
mean,
get him on.
a daily barrage until they
Daily
block us,
barrage. Yeah, that's.
which would be
I mean,
counterproductive to our ultimate goal. But
yeah. I mean, I try to avoid it. I mean, I could well tag him. I think in every tweet possible, but I've only done it once recently. In the recent one he did. There's stuff about the top worst contracts in the NBA thrown out as an idea. And obviously, I have to chime in with my favorite, the 40 million contract to Solomon Bill, 64 million one to Timothy Mozgov, and the $72 million one to Bismax Biombo. Those are puns. Those are not their names. Those are puns. But I could tag them all day. And here I'm just rambling on. So
I'm gonna
we'll get them
continue
to
that
come on
rambling
and
and throw
ramble.
in Jan Mahinmi at 64 million.
They paid him 64 million.
Yes, the
Chandler
Washington
Parsons,
Wizards.
94.
Oh yeah, that's
That's a bad one.
that's up there.
That's bad. That's a bad one. All right. All right. I've prattled
All right,
far.
yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next week, hopefully.